Hello, everybody. Welcome to Grace's preview of our Sunday school lesson, virtual Sunday school lesson for February 28th, this coming Sunday. We will continue to follow the Northwestern Publishing House curriculum on their YouTube channel. A link to that YouTube playlist will be included below in the description so that you can find it easily. This week, they are covering Lesson 12. And that lesson is Jesus Heals the 10 Lepers. As I thought about my preview today, it occurred to me that you might be able to relate to this story maybe a little bit better than, say, I would when I was a kid. And there's one specific word that you can probably relate to a little bit better. And that word is quarantine. So I'm going to show you a picture of what I thought quarantine was when I was a kid, a good example of a quarantine. Hopefully this shows up all right. You can see there's a house and there's a big kind of plastic tunnel that leads to the front door of the house. And if you look closely enough, you see all these people in big plastic suits so that they don't get sick. And you can see the house is covered in plastic so that the disease maybe can't get away from the house. Really keen-eyed parents might recognize this as a scene from the movie E.T. Now, you younger folks, you kids watching this preview, this might be a little bit closer to what you think of when you think of quarantine. You might think of having to do school on your tablet. You probably have maybe some headphones so that your parents can do their job from home while you listen to school. Maybe you have a sibling that also has to listen to school on their tablet. And so that might be a little bit closer to what you think of when you think of quarantine. A lot less extreme than the picture I held up from when I was a kid, where you think about what a quarantine is. But now this last picture is going to be our connection to the Bible story today, because this is a little bit more what quarantine looked like when Jesus was around. You can see Jesus on the road there. There's maybe his disciples following behind him on the road. But you see these men. They're all kind of bandaged up and they're all kind of grouped together. And they're off to the side. They're not on the main road. They're kind of off in a field. And you can see that maybe they're yelling to Jesus. They're trying to get his attention, but they don't want to walk up to him. They don't want to get close to him. They're yelling at him from a distance. And that's what quarantine would look like in Jesus' time. The main disease that would cause people to quarantine in Jesus' time was called leprosy. If you got leprosy, then you were sent out. You were cast away from the village so that people would not get leprosy. And usually there were other people that had gotten leprosy nearby, and so they would kind of all live together, perhaps in caves or just anywhere where it would make sense to get some shelter. They did not lead very easy lives. They had to kind of band together. And it was a deadly disease. It could be a deadly disease, so many of them would perhaps die as they all lived together. But they could not see family. They could not see friends. They could not see anybody until they were cured of leprosy. And that just did not happen. There was not a cure for leprosy. There was no way to prevent you from getting leprosy, no vaccine. Nothing like that. You just kind of had to hope that it would go away, and then you could take yourself to the priests, and they would decide whether your leprosy was truly gone or not. And so while all of our views of quarantine might be different, this is quite an extreme version of quarantining. Imagine if instead of being at home on your tablet and still being able to go to school and maybe still being able to talk to grandma and grandpa on a video chat, again, instead you're cast out. You're told to live outside of the city in a field with other people that have that same disease that you might not even know them. You might have never met them, but now you got to get to know them pretty well because these are the only people you can live with. And so it's poor people with leprosy that are stuck in this quarantine situation, living out in a field outside of a city in Israel, that Jesus has compassion on in our story today, or for Sunday, I should say. And so I want you to think about that. Think about how hard quarantining is now, and think about how much harder it would have been, but also think about the fact that you understand it maybe a little bit better. I never had to quarantine as a child. It was never a thing I ever had to do. Like I said, it happened in movies in my picture. My picture is from a movie, not from a real house, not from a real story, but from a movie. So you might understand this idea of quarantining, this idea of being away from other people because of a disease, right? So that's kind of a pretty cool connection you have to this Bible story for this week. I hope that God blesses your story or your study of the story of Jesus healing the 10 lepers. I hope that the Northwestern Publishing House YouTube channel continues to be a blessing for our families at Grace. And I hope that these little videos serve to be a good Grace connection between you and our materials provided by the Synod. God's blessings on your weekend, and we will see you next week. Bye.